Hi, you guys. Good morning. Oh, wait, it's not morning anymore. Um, so I finished up 5 of my Reader's Digest fluffy, chunky, cushiony junk journals, and I just wanted to share them with you and kind of give you an idea of what's inside of them. So I started out with 10. The spines on 5 of them just did not hold up to disassembly. So I reconstructed the spines on those 5. So that's what these are. The other 5, the spines did hold up, and all I had to do was just do a little bit of reinforcement on the inside of the book. But anyway, so those ones are a little bit smaller. So I did these first, and I decided I'm going to go ahead and release these. And I think I'm going to hold off at least a few weeks on the other ones because I have a whole bunch of other stuff that I need to get done. And I felt like I could at least get these done and in my shop so that I could stop thinking about them. Plus, I was really, really having fun with these. And these are the ones that, of the Reader's Digest books that I had, these were my favorite covers. So I was able to, I think, to retain a lot of their charm and still kind of, put my little twist on them. So a couple things that I really wanted to get across in these journals. 40s, 50s, 60s eras are just really screaming at me lately, and I've picked up some amazing fabrics lately, and one of the things that I've picked up is this quilt top. It's actually like a hexagonal pieces, and it was so yummy, and much of it is very fragile and falling apart, and so I had to do a little bit of repair on it, and but with the use of some glue and my sewing machine and that kind of stuff, I was able to use that quilt top on the binding of, I think, all of these except for this one. And then the other thing is chenille. So I've been fortunate enough to come across some beautiful chenille lately, and so I was able to use a little bit of that in these. So yeah, so basically, like I said, what I'm sort of really trying to get across with these is comfort and the warmth of home, and curling up on the couch with your comforter or your quilt in front of the fire and kind of hunkering down for like the holidays, you know what I mean? And that's just kind of the feeling that I have this time of year. So that's just kind of where I'm headed with most of the stuff I'm working on lately. And so I wanted these to be soft and squishy and yummy enough that you could actually put your face on it. Anyway, so let's look at a couple of these, and I will kind of talk about what's inside. Just want to say quickly though that I really, really like naming my journals. Okay, I like to give them a name just because it helps me to identify them in my shop, but also I feel like it gives them a personality, and whoever winds up claiming them or adopting them, I think that they kind of appreciate that too. So I wound up with the 5, like I said. So I was thinking, names from the 40s and 50s, or even earlier. And the first thing that came to my head was my mom. And my mom has 4 sisters, and no brothers. So that's what I did. I named these 5 journals after my mom and her 4 sisters. So that being said, I'll go through the third one in the series, which is my mom. Her name is Christine, and she is the middle child. So I'll look through Christine, and then I'll give you a peek inside the other ones too, and tell you what their names are. So colors, this quilt was crazy. So lots of different colors and patterns. There's definitely some feed sack involved in these. Yeah, so I don't always try to like match colors and that kind of stuff, but I do try to sort of stay within color family. So you'll see that the colors reflected in I call them rags on the spine, are kind of, similar to the quilt. So, and then I love, oh my God, why do I always forget this? I love this pom-pom trim. If I would have had pom-pom trim that I felt good about for all of these, they would definitely all have pom-pom trim. So used a piece of a vintage sheet that I actually got from Gina at the Rebookery. And I don't know what kind of fabric softener she uses, but I'm telling you, it smells so good. Okay, so let's just do a little flip through. I don't want this to be, 45 minutes long. So I used a lot of vintage wallpaper. Oh, this fabric that I lined the inside of pretty much all of them. Actually, no. Most of the other ones are lined with the flour sack or the sugar sack, but these are vintage tablecloths mostly on the inside of these. And then the vintage wallpaper is from the 70s, but close enough. I don't always try to stick to a specific era in a vintage style journal, but I'm really, really attracted to like the 30s and 40s. So you'll see a lot of that kind of reflected in my journals. So I didn't do a lot of, like bundles in these, but I did fill all of the pockets with lots of goodies, lots of wallpaper samples, but also a ton of vintage postcards and things like that. These are actually pages from a couple of my child life magazines that I have. They're really, really old magazines from the late 20s. And then this is like from some kind of phonics set that I just love. I like how it's aged all around the edges. And then pages, a lot of pages out of my Popular Mechanics magazines. And these are from the 40s. There's book pages, like children's book pages from just like some, school books from that same era. See, there's Child Life. And I love the Child Life magazines. They're so pretty. I love the text. I love the little drawings and the imagery in those magazines. They're just gorgeous. I used a lot of pages from some vintage field guides, sheet music. This is a calendar, like a planner from the early 50s. This is from a Beatrix Potter book. This is actually avocado dyed paper that I did. I'm kind of addicted to dyeing paper with avocado lately. A little bit of, you'll see a little bit of vintage sewing notions in, every one of these. This is a really old postcard from Paris, probably from at least the 20s or 30s. Old wrapping paper. And then there's some coffee dyed scrapbook paper and that kind of stuff that I kind of trimmed down. This is a layaway ticket. Layaway was a big deal in the 40s and 50s. Here's some vintage buttons on a card. There's another vintage postcard. And then I have this French phrase book that I borrowed some pages out of to put in these. It's an easy way to learn French, you know, with a phrase book. This is really old, vintage. I guess old and vintage are the same thing, right? Ledger paper. This was actually from a pack of refill paper for a ledger. These are some really pretty cards that I picked up that are made out of vellum, and they have these gorgeous flower images on them. It's the end of the first signature. And this wallpaper is like obviously like for kitchen or bathroom because it's real, it's like waterproof. It's really cool though. I love old wallpaper. I don't know, this is probably from the Monarch Pine. It's, I think, in Northern California. Anyways, and I used some of my tags in there. I spread I think I had about 30 clusters that I had made in this little box, and I spread all of them out amongst these 5 journals. So there's probably 3 or 4 of them in this book. And then I just glued some images that I fussy cut. There's an egg and some old playing cards. This is another page from that calendar. Some coffee dyed paper. This is some old wrapping paper. This is from an old guest book. There's a bunch of recipes in here, recipe cards, pages from some old cookbooks. One of them is the Betty Crocker cookbook for boys and girls. It's kind of a cool little cookbook. Games. These are from, cards from games. Lots of old, like flashcards and stuff like that. I just glued like some old postage. This is from a flower field guide, bird field guide. This is one of the few pages that are in here that is not vintage, but some graph paper, wallpaper again, avocado dyed paper. And I put a strip of the Tim Holtz, the film strip, or not the film strip, is that what they call them? I don't know what they call them, but it's those ones with the portraits of people in the little booth. Just because most of them are from, like the 50s or 60s. And then I put in a lot of the signatures, there's an envelope stitched into the center that's avocado dyed. And then I just filled most of them with some vintage playing cards and some other random stuff. This is a really cool book that is all like for moms. It's filled with like, poetry and recipes and all kinds of stories and things like that. This is a page from the Betty Crocker cookbook for boys and girls. I guess I snuck some Project Life cards in there too. You have to, Use some wax paper bags. This is another card from that phonics set. Some sewing ephemera. This is from a stamp collector's catalog. There's another cluster. This is from the Popular Mechanics. Here's a flashcard. You can see. Some wallpaper samples. Another vintage playing card. Some coffee dyed paper. These are some old, just, like postcard type of pictures. Like when you travel, like you could buy these little packets of pictures that you could just bring home instead of having to take your own pictures. They take them for you, and you just buy like the little pack of pictures from that area. This is, packaging from some seam binding. Into the third signature. Oops. There we go. And some more postcards. some onion skin paper. This is awesome onion skin paper. This is like my favorite onion skin ever. This is like a stationery set. It's like monogrammed. And there's like 4 different colors of writing paper in there. And then it came with the envelopes too. This is from an old encyclopedia from, I think, 1946. This is Lionsgate Bridge in Vancouver, BC. Recipe, you know how all those like cooking pamphlets and stuff from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. This is from the one for Jell-O. And then some pages from some other kids' books. They're the Rand McNally Telltale books. It's another one of those images from a pack. This is from the Audubon Nature Encyclopedia. There's another avocado dyed envelope. And then some vintage cards inside. Those aren't all playing cards, just different types of cards. It's another page from that mom's book. See, I love that onion skin paper. It's so pretty. This is another card from the phonics game. And then this is just like a little snippet out of a visual, like a kid's encyclopedia. And then for the tabs throughout the whole journal, I've used pieces of a different quilt top that I have. I just use it kind of sparingly, you know. It's like, I don't want to use it all up. So I just use little bits and pieces of it. Some more ledger. And, you know, I don't count the pages. So if you want to start the video over and go back and count as I'm flipping, then that'll tell you how many pages are in the book. I'm sorry, but I don't ever know what people count as a page. Or Patty and I were talking about this yesterday for a minute. Like, so do you count the pages in your journals? And I was like, well, not really. I mean, I will if you want me to, but I say there's generally about 50 pages if you count front and back and envelopes and all that per signature. So, okay, so this is Christine, and let me start, then I'll just kind of go through the rest of them. This one is, I think this is Susan. Yeah, this is Susan, my mom's oldest sister. And so let me show you the dangle that's on these. Well, this one doesn't have anything else other than the like rags on the spine, but you can see there's a bunch of charms on here, and then I made some bead charms out of some old vintage beads. These are some new charms, but and then this is like a piece from like a bingo game, and then this is the name of the journal on this little. Whoops, sorry, I was totally out of frame. This is the name of the journal on this little tag. There's a key and, you know, just lots of little pretties on there. And there's lots of room left on this chain, so you could add more to it if you want to. And they're just attached with a jump ring right here. So, you know, you could remove that jump ring. You know, if you want to put a clasp on this, you could definitely do that. If you wanted to use this somewhere else in your life. So this one has a bead dangle also. It's got this big giant green glass bead that I just love. And then I use some of the Tim Holtz little word tags and stuff, you know. This one has some old vintage buttons on the spine. I just, you know, stitched on some kind of cool buttons. A lot of these are mother of pearl or bone. And so this one is Susan. Okay, so inside they're going to be pretty similar, okay? Just maybe with a, you know, a little bit different kind of color scheme or whatever, but everything is very similar. You know, of course, it's going to have different wallpaper samples and stuff like that. different different wrapping papers. But generally the same type of stuff. And so each listing has 10 photos. You know, if you're interested in one of these and you'd like to see more pictures, send me a message. I'll take more pictures and send them to you. I don't mind doing that. But this gives you a pretty good idea of you know, what they look like inside and what's in there. Excuse me. And then, like I said, I have, you know, another 5 of these, but I'm not going to be doing them anytime soon. It's, you know, maybe not even until, it might not even be until January. I don't know. So this is Jeanette, my mom's second oldest sister. And so she's just got a bunch of like yummy, soft, like vintage sheet strips and seam binding. There's like some undyed sari silk, that kind of stuff on the spine. And this one has just a yummy piece of that quilt. I had to put a piece of another vintage fabric behind it because it had a big hole right there. So you can see that. And then I just stitched over the top of it really well so it wouldn't, you know, fray anymore. And I just like the way it was shaped right here. So I didn't bother putting any kind of trim or anything on the front. And then this is the bead dangle for this one. So you can see there's a little owl and some little charms that I made with beads and lots of like shank buttons, old vintage shank buttons, and keys. And I've been loving making these little like charms just with seed beads lately. So this one, they're all secured with a piece of vintage sheet that I tore into a strip. And each one has a little floating pocket that I made with just some little tiny tags in it. So, excuse me. So yeah, so this is Jeanette. We call her Jenny. So you could call her Jenny if you want to. So there, yeah, see there's some chenille. There's a lot of chenille in this one. There's some of the lavender, and I got this really beautiful seafoam green bedspread. It was really threadbare in a few places, so those are the places that I use. Just because they're the softest, you know. This is a really pretty postcard. Yeah, so there's a yellow bedspread that I have. And then there's like a cream color one. There's some more of the green. And I leave the threads long, you know, from all of my stitching. Just because, like I always say, you know, some people love it. Some people hate it. If you hate it, you know, you might have to take 5 minutes or 10 minutes and just go through and kind of trim off all of the stray threads. Okay, see, you'll see a bunch on the bottom too. So, okay, so that is Jeanette, and then this one is Lois. And this one is, you know, very much in the like cream colors, ivory, off-white, real pale pink, that kind of thing. There wasn't much color on this section of that quilt, but I like just a little bit that kind of pops through, so I tried to kind of mirror that in the bead charm. Okay, you'll see the yellow and red and green. Yeah, so there's the back. And I didn't use any trim on the back, but I did do like a ruffle on the front and then just some buttons in random, you know, funky places. Okay, so I'll flip through this one real quick. And there's still some stray threads on these, you know, that will take care of themselves eventually. So this one's kind of pinkish, I guess. And in a way, I did sort of name these journals after whatever one of my aunts, I felt like their personality kind of matched it too. So, yeah, you'd kind of have to know them, but The last one is Barbara, and Barbara was the wild child of the family, and you'll see in a second. This is actually from a flow book, like an actual flow book. Oh, look at, see, here's a recipe for clown cupcakes. This is from the Betty Crocker cookbook for boys and girls. And then I just used some random pieces of some other quilt tops and fabric scraps and stuff like that in this book. Some old eyelet trim. And some of them I just took the piece and just kind of folded it up and made it into a tab. Some more eyelet trim. This is an old like desk ledger. It's like a real narrow old ledger from the 40s. Lots of butterflies. Some vintage maps in here too. Just a cluster. And then the back, this is also a pocket behind all of those pockets on the front and on the front and back cover. I left the top open so you can put something in all of those too. Okay, and the last one is Barbara. And like I said, Barbara was sort of the wild child in the family. So, and that kind of reflects in this journal. And she was also the youngest. So, she did pass away a number of years ago. But she was, I would say, my favorite aunt. Well, one of my favorite aunts. Anyway, so there's some more of that like hexagonal pieced quilt top with some of the brighter colors and stuff in it, and then some buttons stitched on the spine, and then the bead dangle kind of reflects all of the colors I feel like on the cover. These are real busy, you know. A lot of these Reader's Digest covers are super busy. And, you know, so you sort of have to focus to actually see it. And that's why I like to separate the book cover from the quilt, so that this trim here sort of gives your eye something to separate those two different patterns with. So that's, you know, that's my reason for putting, like, when I put the rickrack on this one, you know, it's just to kind of give you your break of where the actual book cover starts and stops. So, okay, so I feel like I'm talking super fast and super weird, but, all right, so this is Barbara, and again, I just used, like, scraps from the quilt on the pages. I mean, I guess you could call them tabs, but, you know, I don't know if they're necessarily tabs. They're just, you know, pieces of fabric that I stitched on to the edges, you know. You could always add your own tabs, like even, you know, paper ones or stickers or whatever. And on a lot of these on these like vintage children's books, I didn't make these into pockets. I didn't want to. I wanted you to be able to see the entire page, you know. But if it was a little bit too wide, I just folded it a little bit. The same with this mom's book. I wanted you to be able to see all the recipes and all of the images and that kind of stuff. So I just kind of folded those in. If you wanted to make these into pockets, you could so easily do that. You could actually just staple these down or glue them down or even hand stitch them or something and make those into some pockets if you wanted more. So I want to learn how to spin. I really do. Okay, so This is number 5, and I've got all of these listed in my shop right now. They should all be active by the time I get this video uploaded, and so you can go check them out. And then I am working on a November mini. It's going to be a surprise, but I had a hard time coming up with an idea for a November mini because I didn't want to do, I didn't really want to do like a file folder journal again. I wanted to do something different, and so I think you're gonna like it. I think you're gonna like it. They're actually pretty cool little journals, so hopefully I can get those done within the next couple days. So, all right, you guys. Well, listen, thank you for watching. Thanks for hanging out on my channel and all your support and all your love and all of that. It means the world to me. It really does. I can't honestly imagine my life without you guys now. Like, really. I feel like you're my family and truly my friends. So don't make me cry, but I do appreciate you. So, and I hope everybody had a great Halloween and going into the holidays for November and December, that everybody is just joyous and merry and happy and ethical and all of that good stuff, you know? So, yeah, so give me a thumbs up on the video if you like it. Go check out the journals in my shop. I do have a new sale starting today that I'm going to activate today. So that's going to be a little bit of a surprise too. And that'll be for the rest of the month of November. I'm still going to be doing free shipping at $100 in the US. But I'm going to have a new discount up. So, so check that out. And then check back, I would say, in about a week. And I should have the November monthly minis up too. So, but of course I'll make a video anyways. And then I am doing a bit of a live sale tomorrow on Saturday, November 3rd. So if you can come and check that out, that'd be awesome. That's going to be right around 4 p.m. Pacific time, maybe close to 5 though. So, so yeah, anyway. Okay guys, I love you. Bye for now.